Good morning. I'd like to call the TAC meeting to order here on June 6th, and want to turn it over to Jordan Chandler to do the determination of a quorum.
From Sacramento County, Paul Agnello.
Present.
Rodney White.
Present.
Jacob Haskins. Mohammed Ben-Amar. From the city of Fredericksburg, Jamie Jackson. Present. Bassam Amin.
Present.
Mike Craig.
Here.
From Stafford County, Alex Oziak.
Here.
Ryan Council. From King George County, Nick Miner. Kimberly Wilson. From Caroline County, Mike Fincham. And Craig Pennington. From Federal Highway Administration, Ivan Rucker. From the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation, Amy Garmarini. Kiera Williams. From the Virginia Department of Transportation, Michelle Shropshire. Stephen Haynes.
Here.
Jim Ponticello. Dan Grinnell. From the Potomac and Rappahannock Transportation Commission, Bob Schneider. Joe Stainsby. From the Virginia Railway Express, Christine Hefner. Nick Ruiz.
Here.
From Fred Regional Transit, Aiden Cork.
Here.
And Craig Reed. From GW Ride Connect, Kate Gibson. Here. Lee Anderson. A roll call has been conducted and a quorum is present.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you. Next item is approval of the June 6th Technical Advisory Committee agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is item number 5, review of the May 16th, 2022 Policy Committee meeting with Ian.
The meeting minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I skip over one?
Yeah, sorry, number 4. We were just
Oh, yeah, I skipped over number 4. Apologize for that. So we had the minutes up. Did anyone have any changes to the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Sorry, now we're at number 5.
Thanks. Mr. Chair, I just point out to you our wonderful new screen that you can see, which cost us all of $5. We're moving to a projector. As you can see, the brand new projector is up there and working really well. And we do have the brand new screen in that box that you can see out there in the foyer, but it arrived damaged. So we've got to go back and they're going to swap it out with a new one. But the idea is that we move into a bigger screen to try and enlarge all the fonts and enlarge all of the spreadsheets and all that, so people at the back of the room, myself included, can actually read what's on the screen a little better. So we hope to, in the next week, it won't help TAC, but we will get GWRC folks a nice, really big screen, so you'll be able to hopefully read stuff a little better. And that's why you're seeing some tape on the wall right now. We just made a quick solution for today. In terms of the policy committee agenda, and you know, I don't speak about everything, but we had a presentation by Joe McAndrews from the Greater Washington Partnership just about the capital region between Baltimore and Richmond and projects they're involved in, including the rail upgrade, the CSX deal, and just how the companies in the Greater Washington Partnership are contributing to try and help integrate what they call the capital city region. We presented the smart scale information, which you all saw before that, the CMAC SDBG update, which you all saw as well. And that was approved. We approved the task order for the consultants to assist us with the freight summit. The UPWP wasn't approved at that meeting, but we did hold a public hearing. The executive committee met subsequent to the policy committee on the instructions of the policy committee and approved the UPWP 1 week later on the 23rd of May, just before the GWRC board meeting. Just for information, the GWRC board also approved the budget, which includes the funding that FAMPA receives. So the budget and the UPWP were approved in May. The TIP modifications, that particular round, you saw them all as well here in the TAC, and they were mostly administrative ones. Resolution 2236 was withdrawn, so the appointment of the at-large member didn't occur. The CMAC targets, that's for the TPB, and really we generally don't make detailed comments on their targets, simply because we don't think that we're in a position to know everything about the needs in the greater Washington PMA, apart from just that small section in Stafford. So generally we just endorse what it is that the TPB out as their proposed ask. So that was just a board letter for that. I think you saw the original document. And then the Pennsylvania raise grant letter was approved, interestingly endorsed by the city, recommended by the city, which I thought was good regional cooperation. The vision survey, we just spoke to you about what we wanted to do, and Coley is going to give you a very short summary of the results that have been coming in. So that's what was on the policy committee agenda, and I'll take any questions, but I don't usually belabor this.
That's great. Any questions for Ian? Okay. We'll move along to public comments. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak? Is there anyone online or anyone signed up to speak?
Haven't had any requests, but
okay.
Obviously there will be some folks online.
Okay. We'll move along. So we're down to 7 action discussion items. The first one is 7A, the Smart Skill Round 5 update with Carrie Barb.
Good morning, everybody. Next slide. So as you know, we're in June. The portal has opened, and all of the pre-applications have been turned in.
Yay.
So, work, everybody. Next slide. So the task before you today, if you can manage it, is to remove one ad from the DWRC list. I'm going to go through each of them so you have a refresher and you can discuss them.
A coin.
So the first one is the US 1 Layhill intersection improvement, which includes intersection improvements at US Route 1 and Layhill Road and a shared use path down Layhill Road and a bus stop. Next slide. This one is US 1 Route 628 American Legion Road, turn lane improvement. Pretty simple, improves the flow of traffic at this intersection. Warrenton Road, this is a section of sidewalk on the north side of Warrenton Road where there's a lot of pedestrian activity in Stafford to I-95. And this is Dixon Street coming out of the city. This is going to be a section of sidewalk and a section of shared use path that meets up with shared use paths within Dixon Park, and also widening to Dixon Street, and an area right there coming out of this gas station thing that widens turn radius for large trucks coming out of that facility. Slide. And then we have Lafayette Boulevard, roadway and bike ped improvements. This is several sections of sidewalk to complete gaps in the city of Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania County, as well as turning improvements at Old Greenwich Road, Old Greenwich Drive, and a new bus stop at Wellington Woods, which will make a matched stop set so that people don't have to ride all the way around to go back home when they're riding the bus. That's the task before you. So if you all want to discuss and see if there are any of these that you wish to drop from the list, I give it to you, Mr. Chairman.
So I guess I just had a question. I know at the last GWRC meeting there was a discussion that one project might be falling off. Is that not happening?
They're laying it in your hands.
There were two of our projects, and I say they're our projects because it's FAMPO, and
right.
You know, it's not really my project. Which took long to screen in because there were some queries and problems. The Lafayette Boulevard, one had scope issues. We back and forth, and you helped us resolve that on
Right.
Friday. And then the Lahill one also, there was some back and forth with the county about that one. But they have both now completed their scope properly, I understand. And I'm told that at least at the district level, all of them have screened in.
Right.
There could possibly be a query from OIP, but we don't anticipate one. So they did at the last minute all screen in. So we do have 5, and we need to remove 1.
So I know at the last meeting, I think Ms. Jackson from the city said basically if we didn't have consensus, which I don't think we do, we could just defer it to GWC? I would make a motion that we do that.
I second that motion.
Any comments from anybody else?
I guess I just have one comment. I noticed when we, all the localities submitted copies of their smart scale applications to FAMPO, the city had only listed 3 applications. So I don't know if you're still moving forward, just 3 applications for the city, if there's a possibility one of these from the GWRC list could fall under the city's application?
The VDOT.
We can't add an additional application. If you didn't have a pre-app from that jurisdiction representing that project, you can't create.
Maybe if we had coordinated months ago before the pre-application period ended, we could have done that. Something to keep in mind next round.
Is there any further discussion? Yes, the motion is on the floor. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes.
The poor people at GWRC. Next one.
So then this one before you is just a resolution authorizing support for all of the locality smart scale applications in each of the jurisdictions.
And there's a copy in your pack in front of you, so if you look below you, it lists out specifically each of the projects, plus the resolution of support.
This is a blanket resolution, either you endorse all the projects.
So I did have a question. There was one of the Spotsylvania ones which was missing the list that's on the online agenda. With the kind of this action, the way it currently is kind of configured for Resolution 2040, does it include all the Spotsylvania ones?
Down to the Spotsylvania ones this year. There's 4 on this.
Okay, great.
They're all there now.
Okay, great. So I don't have any further questions. Does anyone have questions for staff on this? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, just really quick if I may, just on the previous topic, because I know it's going to come up to GWRC why we didn't make a decision or why we didn't provide a recommendation. And I just want to be clear, at this point, since we can't come to a consensus, there's no data or scoring that can help us decide which project or projects should be removed from that list. We just don't have enough information to provide them that guidance. So I just want to make sure that that's, from my perspective, clear, because we had, for example, preliminary scoring, which is too early. But if we had something to do that, then we could help them make a decision. Without that information, the region needs to make a decision for the region. So hopefully everybody's on a similar page with that, but I know it'll come up as an issue as why can't y'all help us with this, and that's why y'all are on the board. So.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, so the next item is 7B, the FAMPO and locality grant application logistics.
So we just put some slides together, Mr. Chair, and I'm happy for you to discuss the item, but just what is the point of this discussion? And the point is that, you know, out of the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, there's a ton of grants that, opportunities that are coming out. And the question, and the chairman and I discussed it a little bit, the question is, which of the grants that are coming out should FAMPO staff be tracking? Which of the grants should localities track themselves? I mean, there's some that VDOT obviously might track. and you should do applications for those. And we provided links for you to see where those are. If you just scroll down, there are one or two that came up, and we have questions about. For example, this Reconnecting Communities pilot program. A number of people recently went on a webinar to find out more about this, and it's one that in certain circumstances might be helpful to us. We did kind of consider whether the possible tunnel or bridge over the unoccupied and the BCR trail could fit under this, but it's complicated because we're not reconnecting communities that are, what is the language they use? Disadvantaged communities. They're not, it's not directly connecting disadvantaged communities, so it's a weak case, but there's a question about that. And then there's the Safe Streets and Roads for All. And this particular program, my understanding is that it has both a grant to draw up a safety action plan, and then it has grants to execute the items in that plan as a separate thing. So there's two separate things going on there. We started talking about that. These are two examples of grants that are coming up. There are also very big ones, the build grants, the raise grants, all those kinds of things. And below this, on the slide, there's just kind of where to find information about the grants and all that, so people can look them up themselves. I guess, Mr. Chair, the question just is, we as FAMPO staff, we're 6 people, and we have to do the committee work for all the 4 committees, plus the 2 studies and the upcoming Freight Summit. And the volume of these grant opportunities that are coming out now, there's a large number. And we're, from our side, I mean, you had some comments just right, but from our side, we're concerned that in our region, they miss opportunities because we're just not tracking all of them, and we certainly can't apply to all of them. So we can do some work as a staff, but we're also looking to the localities to pick some of these things themselves and also do some of the work on making some applications for some projects. The reason why I think, speak for yourself, Mr. Chair, but the reason why I think we wanted to talk about this is just that we don't miss all of these opportunities, and then the 5 years of big money has gone and we haven't applied for anything. And I think that would be remiss of us to do. On the other extreme, I think no one of us in this room is going to be able to eat this elephant on our own. We need to agree who's going to do what so that we don't kind of just completely drop the ball. But it's a lot of work. Grants are, I'm sure those of you who've done grants before know that it can become a full-time job just sitting there doing grants. And I don't have a full-time staff member I can allocate just to grants right now. So over to you, for
that was well said, and I'll add on to that, the federal grants are very time-consuming. It's like one federal grant could be, kind of 10 times the work of one smart scale grant. So just to give you kind of a level of effort kind of involved with that. I'd asked Ian to put this on just because of the fact that he mentioned there's kind of this multitude of grants coming out. It's kind of confusing when you look at all of them. But I'll say some of them, there's an opportunity to do kind of like a regional approach, and other ones, maybe it's a locality approach, and then other ones maybe it just doesn't make sense for anyone to apply at all. So just to have a discussion if there were any grants that it made sense to do more of a regional approach through FAMPO or maybe GWC. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thanks for bringing this to the table. I just have a small suggestion. I know the infrastructure bill is coming out. It looks like the federal government has been doing a decent enough job of now showing on their pages who is eligible to apply for what. And now, a lot of these new grants that are coming out, although we don't have the full information yet, we can see, okay, this is MPOs eligible. And I think when I was thumbing through it, maybe 6 or 7 specifically. So that might be a good place to start. Some of those grants also have eligibility for agencies and for jurisdictions, but that might be a good place to start for FAMPO. And then most of the federal grants that we're going to be looking at right now are coming out of the infrastructure bill beyond the ones we're looking at now. So they're breaking that down. Maybe that's a good place to start. And for the localities, I'm not sure, but I just want to bring it to your attention that there are some specific grants out there that are for MPOs. So that might be a good place for you all to start.
Gary has had a look at some of those. Do you want to?
Well, I just want to make one comment. Several of the ones that are for MPOs are for MPOs of a population of 200.
Yeah,
So that narrows it down.
absolutely.
So that we don't qualify for all of them. There's certain.
And I'll say the next slide, the one that had the two kind of upcoming opportunities, I believe these were two that potentially FAMPO could be eligible for. Localities could also do.
They're both and, yeah, localities or MPOs can apply for. The one we have an application deadline on the 15th of September. The other one, we don't have a deadline. So we don't know when the deadline is going to be. They've yet to post the deadline. And as I say, the one with the deadline has got these two aspects. There's a safety action plan, so you can get a grant to develop a safety action plan. And then there are also grants for the projects that come out of the safety action plan. Now, we don't currently have a safety action plan, regional one. I don't know what localities have, but we certainly don't have a regional one. And you need to have the safety action plan in place before you qualify for the grants to build stuff. So, you know, if the action plan says you need to build a bike path down this road, or you need to put other safety measures in place, you have to show you've got the safety action plan before you can go and apply for grants. If that makes sense.
So on the second one, I believe that none of us have the safety action plan. And the question we had is if there was interest in, FAMPO or it could be GWC, trying to do kind of a regional safety action plan then so individual localities could be eligible for this. Sorry.
I was going to ask for the second one, safe streets and roads. Is that comes as a lump sum for all projects or just for each individual project?
So there is a grant that will fund the study or the work to create the action plan. That's one grant. And then it has many grants that are project specific, and you have to apply. Here's our safety plan. Now we want to apply for the sidewalk project.
Okay.
And then you get a grant just for the sidewalk project if you are awarded the grant.
So that's what you're talking about, that locality should apply specific projects for.
Well, I'm not even saying that from my side. I'm just saying that there are a ton of these things, and we can't do it all. And
No, I
don't think
understand.
any one locality can do it all. So we're saying, is there something you want FAMPO to do, and is there something that localities want to do? Because we probably can do a couple between us, but we're not going to all be able to do all these things. I mean, I could probably find the staff time to do one grant, because these things, as Paul just said, are a mammoth effort, and it's going to take a long time. And that September deadline is fast approaching. I'm not even sure I can get really enough staff time to get by September the 15th, the full application together. Haven't yet looked at how much the lift is, but Paul seems to think it's quite heavy lift. So anyway, so the point is, we shouldn't just close our eyes and ignore these, but we should be realistic. And I'm guessing each locality, I don't know, what do the other localities think? Do you have the ability to work on grants right now?
Yeah, what kind of safety action plan are we looking at? If it was done regionally, what would the aspects of that plan be?
So it's like a federal safety action plan. They have certain specifications. They need to be kind of, boxes that need to be checked in. For the most part, I think most of Virginia doesn't have this. Or maybe VDOT might have something that would satisfy this in some part, but localities or MPOs, they don't have this. So basically with the grant, it looks like it's actually fairly easy to get a safety kind of action plan grant. Probably would be more difficult to get funding to actually do a project. But if you don't have a safety action plan, then you're kind of closed off any kind of project funding in the future. When I say that this federal grant program, I'll say for all of these, it seems like it's at least a five-time deal. This is kind of round one, and there'll be kind of 4 more chances after this, even if Congress decides not to continue these programs in the future. So if, the region, let's say, either FAMPO or GWC had a safety action plan in place from round 1, then in round 2, all the localities included in that plan could apply for that source of funding.
Do you think that the safety action plan is specifically about roadway features? Does it involve bikes and peds?
It's both, yeah, it could be, bike ped, it could be like operational or kind of safety improvements, something like a traditional HSIP project would kind of qualify for that.
Okay.
So the safety action plan is obviously a priority, because we need it to get the other projects done. Am I understanding that correct?
Yeah, I would.
I think the big lift for FAMPO staff would be to actually complete the application. With it being the September 15th timeline, I think that, you might need some outside help to even create the application to send in. So that's just something for us to think about on, if we want to go ahead and, as localities, as agencies, get this money in the future, we're going to need to have safety action plans. So I think that obviously be a regional effort, but I think the issue is getting this safety action plan completed. So having even FAMPO will need to probably find some funding to get a consultant to write the grant maybe, and then have it sent in. So I don't have any solutions for that, but that's just want to bring that to the table and what I think is going to happen, because I don't know, yeah.
I don't think we currently, in the current UPWP and in the current CMAC, SDVG, and HIP allocations, there's no funding lying dormant other than the FY28, I believe, funding that we parked. We didn't allocate it because we're going to allocate it in the next round. So there isn't funding now. We would have to steal funding from something that has been allocated in order to fund that.
Is it possible, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I guess the grant deadline for the September 15th is not to when you have to have the safety action plan completed, unless you're applying for projects this year. So you could get a grant to start the safety action plan this year, and as long as it's completed by round 2 of funding, then you could use it for eligible projects. So I don't think there's a rush between now and September 15th to make an entire plan. The rush would be to fill out the application to get the grant to do the plan.
Correct.
Right.
I haven't looked at what's involved in doing the application.
Yeah.
I have not dug deeply into this. I've been busy with a million other things, but we may be able to complete the application ourselves. I don't know right now. I can't answer the question right now. Or we might need some assistance. And I don't know that we have funding for that assistance right now.
I think these kind of grants, and localities need to think about it, because anytime you get safety issues, it has to be professionals who's doing that. So it means you have to get studies and things like that. You can't just say, hey, put crosswalk, or you put the sidewalk, or you put this. It has to be signal improvement or things like that. It has to be a study. And in order to do that, you got to have some funds. And I don't know if localities already have reserve funds from all of them.
No, so the point here is that if we fill in the application, they will give us funds to draw up the action plan, and we can then possibly hire a consultant to assist us with drawing up the action plan. So our commitment, if you're asking us to do that, would be to do the application for the funding to do the action plan. We wouldn't this round, I don't think, be able to apply for any projects. But a year from now, we may then have the action plan finished, and we can then use that to apply for projects. And it's kind of like working on a pipeline.
And just a point of clarity, the safety action plan is going to have different federal stipulations and requirements that are going to have to be fulfilled and completed by the consultant. And then once that's just going to be sent over, it's going to be checked off, and once that's meeting their requirements, it'll be approved for a time period, and then we'll be able to get the funding.
That's what I'm thinking.
The question is going to be, if we do a regional safety action plan, are we going to, and I'm going to have to look at it a little closer, is that going to fulfill the requirements for the agencies and the jurisdictions that apply by themselves? Or is it only going to apply to FAMPO?
No, I believe it'll cover
covers everyone.
Cover applications that you make. However,
Good.
while we're drafting the safety action plan, localities would have to participate, right? It's not like FAMPO can go and get a consultant and write through a safety action plan without you, because then what happens is we say, okay, well, we think we're gonna put a bike lane over here, and you guys all decide we don't want a bike lane over there. So you remember, this is not, we'll all do this and then it's done. You have to participate in the drafting of the safety action plan, otherwise you're not gonna want to use it to get your funding. So you have to participate. This is not a...
So another aspect of this is it has a 20% local match requirement. So if there are a bunch of localities and either FAMPO or between it, we would need to kind of contribute the match to kind of GWC and FAMPO so that they would have the required match. So let's just say it's $1 million. It's probably not that much, but in that case, we'd have to come up with $200,000 in match.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, to help progress this effort, I would recommend that FAMPO staff evaluate what is needed to complete the application. And based on your current workload, decide what the localities need to do to assist you, whatever level that may be. And localities can opt in or they can opt out. I can tell you Fredericksburg can't be the only locality opting out because we didn't give you what you needed, because then we'll get in trouble. So, because Mike always does his job. So that would be my recommendation, just so that we can get the application in. If FAMPO staff can do all of it, God bless y'all souls. But if you can't, just say, localities, this is what I need, and similar to what you did with Smart Scale. This is what I need. This is what I need by. These are the time period of changes. If you can't get it in, you are not part of this regional plan. You know, sucks for you, whatever locality, but that way we can get a regional plan, because I think that's really, really important. And then, you know, estimate what the funding potentially is for this type of project. I'm guessing about $650, maybe, to get it done. And then let localities know. I would err on the side of caution with what Paul said. Let's say it's $1 million, and then let localities know if you decide to progress. Make sure you put that, you know, money in your budget, your percentage of that share.
So we can, I think, prepare an email with some of those technical requirements and what budget requirements are and send it to you all. And then we can also speak to GWRC, Kate is here as well, to just talk about how exactly that local match will be calculated and who would have to contribute it, et cetera, so that before we climb into this thing, we know what we're getting into.
Just one procedural thing to think about. Make sure that you're going to do your work for your staff, it's covered in your UPWC and TAC.
Absolutely. Which is why I think that your point is apposite. We need some more information, and then we would need to do a UPWP amendment, et cetera.
If it's not in there, because I do think support, for support for.
You might have some vague ones.
Yeah, support for safety programs, I think is in there.
Well,
but just be certain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we do, and also we included all the IIJA language in an entire page, which covers safety, which covers housing, which covers all that. So there's general language, even if it's not a specific, ask.
And then my other only piece would be moving forward, if staff has any time to just do a quick cursory summary, even though, yes, I know there is a summary slide somewhere you can copy and paste. We just didn't read it. I didn't read it. I didn't read it. And just maybe identify current projects that are in the pipeline and or stuff that you know about, and just say, Fredericksburg, this project would fit, you should apply, and just, just guidance would be helpful. Just somebody like saying, like almost like a mini project manager, just saying, hey, you would fit this bill if you applied. We'd be like, oh, really? So, I think that would be very helpful for me. That way we're not reading all the language or trying to find it. If you have recommendations for each locality or regional or multi-jurisdictional project, that would be extremely helpful, because at least if we start there, we can determine what help we need from your staff, if any. So that would be my comment on the rest.
We can do a little bit of work on that. We can't go very far down that rabbit hole, though, because, again, we've got limited
If you
kind of stuff.
if you just touch it,
So we'll just you know, give you a list and some information about it, but, to suggest to you, like, which roadway you need, which,
No.
like, we can't match that kind of level of stuff, but we can certainly give you lists of grants that are coming available now and what they apply to, that kind of thing. We can certainly do that.
Yeah, a cheat sheet would be helpful, that would be good, in my opinion, so.
Can we just, I would suggest, Mr. Chair, that what we do is ask each of the localities if they're in favor of us doing the safety action plan, bearing in mind that there will be some local commitment, whatever that is, we don't know yet. Just a general feeling, because if there's like only one locality really that interested, it might not be worth putting in, because there's going to be work, there's going to be effort, and I'm happy to commit to effort, but provided it's going to be used.
The idea, I think, has to be budgeted, and I think for city, if it wants to participate, they have to know some kind of a number, so we can say yes. I mean, to make a decision right now, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think conceptually getting the information, which was all the stuff that you discussed before, giving us a cost estimate, talking to GWRC and seeing if we can move forward. But I think getting the process started, I don't think there's any issue there.
So just in terms of like the follow-up with that, like we can't wait to the next TAC meeting. I mean, would maybe 2 weeks be enough to kind of that analysis and see if, you know, see what locality interest is, get the things that Jamie mentioned, and see kind of if FAMPO is in a position to do it?
We can certainly hone in on that one grant and give you a breakdown of this is what it's likely to cost, this is how it would work if it breaks down. I'll discuss with GWRC about how the local match will be calculated and work, and kind of what documents we need to submit to support the thing and that kind of thing. The trouble is, your point is taken. We're not meeting again until August, and that deadline is the 15th of September. And so it's kind of, by the time we meet again, it'll be too late to finally decide, yes, we're going to do the work to fill it in, if you understand my logic. So,
well, I say if it's something that's viable, I think we should have a special meeting of the localities that would be part of it, and it could be a web meeting. Be later this month or whenever would be a convenient time.
okay.
We might have to have a couple meetings on it too. We might have to meet in July and, you know, August if we decide to do it.
Okay, I will start work on it and then send you the information and then take guidance on whether you're interested, and then I'll do let's just agree to have an online meeting.
Yeah.
And then I can just schedule an online meeting so you can decide whether to proceed with it. And you may need to talk to your principals, you know, your budget people about that, depending on how exactly the funding would work.
Touch on the first grant that's up there, Reconnecting Communities. I know that there was a regional desire to focus on the connectivity with the VCR trail, and we kind of talked ourselves out of that, I think, is where we got with that. Are there any other local needs, economically disadvantaged communities that you guys are seeing, maybe in Stafford or Spotsylvania, that you're interested in this grant for? I know that we have one, but I wanted to open it up to talk about, you know, maybe on a regional scale. There's other folks that have this kind of problem. Thinking about the railroad tracks, I-95, we've got Blue and Gray Parkway is a limited access one that's separating some of our more vulnerable communities. So I don't know if anybody else has anything that they're interested in with that first.
So the first grant, you said that basically, Ian, that had to be kind of a disadvantaged community? Yeah.
Yeah, there's two aspects to it. You have to reconnect communities that have been divided by new infrastructure, big infrastructure, like a highway or a road or whatever else, and then presumably a rail line. And then you also have to show that it's somehow disadvantaged communities that would benefit by building the connection. And so that's where the VCR trail connection over the I-95 falls flat. It will connect communities, but it's not the disadvantaged communities that are targeted by this particular grant. And we think then it'll score very badly. So it would be a lot of effort, and then you don't get the result because it's just going to score so.
Just to build off of Mike's point, I think Blue-Gray Parkway is something to look at. Especially we have, when we're going back into Mayfield, places like that, as you know, it's super isolated off of Dixon Street. Dixon Street always gets busy. It causes a lot of delays for us. Now might be something for us to look at. I think that's a good idea.
I think the city is very in favor of that.
But I didn't know if there's areas in Spotsylvania, in that area around the FMC plant or anything like that, if this was gonna rise to the level of a regional kind of project, you know, that always, in my mind, makes things better.
Yeah, we're more limited in like areas that are like disadvantaged communities, but our best chance to do something with the city would be along Lafayette Boulevard, closer to the city line, like something like the sidewalk that would be eligible, or like a shared use path, something like that, or crosswalk, things like that.
It's just the census data's been a little bit tough. That's where
Right.
that's what we're.
I mean, the city probably has more kind of potential projects you could do.
Maybe what we do is encourage the localities to look at that first grant as individual localities.
Right.
And if there is a potential to connect with another locality, we can always assist as Banta. And then we as the region will look at the safety action plan aspect and drive, hopefully, a project to apply for that grant to produce the action plan.
Does it have to be transportation? It doesn't have to just be transportation planning, right? Could it be infrastructure, gas, water? I mean, if you start getting into gas and water.
You read the removal, retrofit, mitigation, or replacement of eligible transportation infrastructure facilities that create barriers to mobility access or economic. So it's eligible transportation infrastructure facilities.
But Nick, I believe there's other grant programs that
Because if you
don't have the transportation, they have the pipelines, they have the electric lines.
But if you start hitting water and gas, then you can start hitting the disadvantaged communities out in Spotsylvania County that may need it.
Yeah, these grants specifically aren't related in some way to transportation.
Right.
Otherwise, Banta wouldn't dig into them because they're not our purview.
And Carrie, for one of the pages you had, gas,
Yeah, you're right on that. I see there, the unit filter,
maybe the next page.
the gas.
That one right there. There's one there for infrastructure, gas, natural gas.
And if you see there, that one came up because I used transportation as the filter, so this one still came up as transportation. The other filter I used was road, but I think transportation actually pulled up some grants for buses, and that grant deadline ended like last week or something. So it's very easy for us to keep an eye on them, and what we can do. I know what you're talking about as far as bringing public drinking water, or maybe sewer to where septic systems are failing. So it's not hard at all for us to use a filter and kind of be the clearinghouse, if you will, for the grant opportunities. And Jamie, about what we can do is maybe wholly send the TAC, as they're posted, the links to the grants specifically.
And just something clever in the subject line so it doesn't get lost.
Just remember,
I'll let y'all sort through
just remember, we don't
what they are.
get into non-transportation grants that we can't. In terms of our UBWP agreement.
Well, I will say, so not to split hairs, I mean, kind of off of what you were saying, Nick, but the pipelines, you know, the Pipelines and Hazardous Material Safety Administration is actually part of the US DOT, so it does fall under the transportation grants, but I don't know if there are any pipelines that are dividing communities in this region. I don't think there are, but if there were, I think that would actually be one of the eligible infrastructure.
They always do.
Okay.
And just one quick thing, Mr. Chair, and what you were saying, I think that these other projects, like what Nick was talking about, GWRC that's something where they can maybe take some of the load off of, and while they're looking at the other grants that are not transportation related, maybe they'll be able to have an idea of other stuff that, you know, takes them of tempo.
Sure. Sounds good. Well, great discussion. Thank you. Next item is 7C, the fiscal year 21-24 TIP amendments and modification.
So the first thing you have are just administrative adjustments that were requested by VDOT. Two of them are smart scale projects and one of them is an STR project. These are administrative modifications, so no action is needed. It's just for your knowledge. And then attached to the email is just the blocks of the projects that were being adjusted. And then the second item is a resolution directing public comment for 3 new UPCs that will be added to the TIP. These come from the Corridor Improvement Plan Projects funding source, the CIP for I-95. And they are just like general projects throughout the I-95 corridor.
And these are also requested by VDOT.
That's correct.
So can VDOT just talk a little bit more about what these projects are?
They're DRPT projects.
Okay.
They're going to, but they ultimately, they're DRPT projects.
Okay.
So we don't have a description of these projects, DRPT would have to comment.
Okay.
We can request a description for you, but we do not have.
The only thing I have this time, these are transit projects funded through the Interstate Operation Enhancement Program. All 3 should be for new commuter transit service will be operated by OmniRide PRTC. Projects will include both operating and capital funding. That's all I have.
Yes.
So something to do with PRTC.
They just run through us.
PRTC haunts here, unfortunately.
And I guess is some of this transit running from Stafford?
Yeah, there's exit 126.
Caroline
Some
County.
of our just indicated on these that would
Okay.
lead us to believe that that's where they're going.
Okay.
But again, I don't have details if someone from PRTC or DRPT.
Yeah.
I mean, that one was Interstate 126, so I guess.
Should be Spotsylvania. And I guess, I don't have an issue with approving this, but can we go ahead and maybe try to find out from PRTC or DRPT kind of more about what the actual projects are?
Whoever sent you the request, could we send them back an email to say, can we get some
I
information?
can send a request over to them, I don't know if I'll get one, but I don't want to. Probably.
Because they didn't come to us from PRTC, they came to us from VDOT, who got it from DRPT. So, but I'm looking at it, it looks like PRTC must be involved.
Can we just ask the DRPT and PRTC reps to FAMPO?
Yeah, sure.
We'll see if we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve.
Well, to support, we're not gonna.
Oh, sorry. Isn't this,
That would require the policy committee to approve, I would imagine, right?
what is this resolution 2241?
Yeah, I guess that's a resolution for the policy committee. So you're
Okay,
recommending that.
we're recommending, okay.
Yeah.
So I'll make a recommendation to basically support resolution 2241. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
I think we're good.
motion passes. So we're up to 7D, the FAMPO Vision Survey.
Charlie, we'll just run you through this. You'll remember we sent out stuff to you, we asked you to fill in a survey, and we're working towards creating a vision for FAMPO, right? So a little bit of kind of looking at the future, and we literally closed the survey on Friday as well. Was it Friday? Yeah. So we worked, Coley and I, over the weekend to just try and get you the first little view of this, because you're not going to meet in July. So we rushed and did some work over the weekend. So this is just preliminary. We need to do some further tweaking over time of the results. But just to give you a feel for the flavor of where we are, we've got you some preliminary and remember, the interesting thing about this is what you all think, right? And not only you all in this room, but you all as in the 4 committees of FAMPO. So this includes 6 FAMPO staff members and all of the members of the 4 FAMPO committees. So remember who's in those committees. Members of the public in the CTAC, members of the public and some jurisdictions in the CTAC, you all as the technical people from the various entities, jurisdictions, and state partners, and then the politicians in the policy committee and the others who are members of the policy committee. So think about that group of people. It's a diverse group of people. This is their initial view. Some of them are interesting. I'll hand over to Cody.
And remember that these are y'all's y'all's input, so we are going to take this and create a vision statement from the results. So 97 surveys were sent out, 63 replied. We had the 6 FAMPO staff and then 9 of each committee. So why FAMPO exists is mostly for regional collaboration and transportation planning. So many folks really want just regional collaboration. The biggest one, though. And then also we got all the way at the top rural localities. So we want to include those rural localities as well. Yeah.
Of course, rural localities are not formally part of FAMPO.
Exactly.
But anyway, you're all welcome.
We want them.
Like this shade.
You're all welcome.
Burn the room.
Next slide. Yeah. And then if we did, once we do create a vision statement, what would the region look like according to that vision statement? So we have multimodal design as the largest feedback we received. More funding is the last. Pretty interesting. But, that's for the future. And then we have fewer vehicles, more density and walkability, and transit-oriented development.
Quick question. So you pulled out like key terms from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so because I'm trying to remember, it's been so long since I submitted it. We didn't have to rank these.
No.
Yeah.
There is a ranking later on.
Okay, that's right.
But yeah, so
All that tells you is this is the number of people who chose that concept. That's all it tells you.
Okay.
Yep. Same with the last question.
That's why I said we need to.
Okay, so this is what I was thinking.
So this one is the most important solution that families are working on, and everybody says transportation,
That's good news. That's good news.
You might not think that, the MPO should work on transportation, but we do.
Just go back one slide. No, the one with the word cloud. Just look at the other words, because transportation is the obvious word, but if you look at the other words, you'll see there's a lot of, so planning, public transportation, transit happens quite a lot, right? Again, when we did the big survey last year, I was surprised at how many people said they were in favor of transit. I thought it was going to be a very much smaller number. Again, here, looking across the 4 FAMPO committees, it's coming up again. People are interested in transit.
It's me.
It's you.
Exactly.
You and Aidan. Next slide.
Yeah, we submitted it 20 times.
Now we know why.
You all had unique numbers, so I kept up with that. And then, so this is again, key terms that came out of everybody's responses. So this is just, it's not in any ranking or order or anything, it's just all the things that were most in your results. So we have accessibility for all, bike and pedestrian improvements, less sprawl, multi-mobility options, rural connections, transportation-oriented development, regional transportation authority, all these things. And we'll send this out to you so you have the findings.
And we'll work on some of these because this doesn't tell you the kind of intensity of the items. We had to do this over the weekend, so you've just got the key words here really that came up.
And then what if we can't build our way out of congestion crisis? Alternatives, we saw light rail, car sharing carpools, open easy path lanes, traffic calming, incentives to use public transit, teleworking. Oh, so many people put, just let's everybody telework. And increase VRE capacity, shift freight to rail. So there's a lot of good stuff in there. Next slide. And then the gas tax, there were some interesting ones for this too. So this shows the ranking of how many times those keywords were used. So tax tax the weight of the vehicle and vehicle miles traveled, put more tolls in, tax electric cars, tax developers, tax areas that aren't walkable, stop funding unnecessary projects, find federal and state funding, incentivize public transit, a different sales tax altogether, regional transportation authority.
Regional transportation authority, it doesn't come up a lot of times, but it's definitely there in the mix.
But it did come up enough that, I didn't put things that didn't come, if somebody said it once, I didn't put it in there. Somebody said it twice, didn't put it in there, but enough people saying, that they wanted this, I included it. And also, Regional Transportation Authority came up throughout the survey. Yeah, in other ones. And same with, regional collaboration. That was seriously one of the biggest ones. So everybody wants to collaborate.
Just one quick question. So it looks like 3 was the minimum to show up on this. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah. If you didn't get at least 3 people saying that, we didn't bother because you were the one guy. Or girl, or person.
Right. Next slide. And then we had, how do we integrate land use with transportation infrastructure? I just included some of the actual comments so y'all could see. So loosen density and zoning regulations, pedestrian-only areas, build the land use around travel patterns, basically reiterating those 2 points. And then that we should have a comprehensive plan, but we have the long-range transportation plan. So I think this one is just saying, like, we just want more collaboration between the localities. And then reduce road maintenance costs per housing unit.
And eliminate parking minimum. There are other comments, and we'll sift through them in some more detail and give you some more breakdown. But this is just kind of a flavor. This is the kind of comments that is.
And then here's the last 2 for ranking. You saw that multimodal transportation options was the most for the first choice, and then transportation safety and congestion mitigation tied. You can't really see that because it's a little, yeah. But yeah.
We don't care about the environment.
No. These other things will help the environment.
We just didn't think it was y'all's job to do that.
We don't want to be environmental. The hell with the environment.
Yeah, that's what I thought I was.
That's interesting.
Exactly.
All of those other things do help the environment.
Yeah.
Walkability, transit, TOD, all of that helps the environment.
Exactly.
Environment is a nebulous word unless you.
Because I'm just being facetious.
For sure, exactly.
It's not our highest priority, clearly. Right.
Not for this committee, for cities and localities, I think it's a priority, but when I looked at what FAMPO does, I was like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
6 other things, so which will help. And this one I really loved, safer roads and sidewalks. Nobody chose this last, nobody. So, pretty important, right? But then we have transit-oriented developments for the leading.
Really? That was biased?
It's the first. It's the one that most people.
Highest number of first choices, I get it, yeah.
Yeah.
And affordable transportation doesn't score very highly either.
No, or safer cycling paths, but we do have fare free on the bus, and I think it's.
Yeah.
A lot of people were saying, like, if we have faster transit and more accessible transit, then the affordability doesn't necessarily matter.
So we prioritized safer roads and sidewalks, but not so much safer cycling as a group, as a total group. Okay.
All right, and then that is the last thing. Again, thank you all for submitting your surveys, those of you who did, and we will be putting these together some more and forming a vision statement, so y'all can hopefully look at it again in August.
Thanks, Carly. So that gives you just an initial flavor, and we'll do some more digging into some of it we've just shown you text, right? We need to dig more into that. And then the idea is that we use all of your input to now say, okay, so what does that tell us about the FAMPO vision? And we need to turn it into a FAMPO vision draft document, which we can then talk about in August and September, and together build this thing as a group of 4 committees, so that kind of at the end of it, hopefully, instead of a LRTP, which is God knows how many 100 pages, we've got like a 7-page summary of this is like the key things we're trying to achieve. Obviously, it won't conflict with LRTP, but it gives us a little bit more of a vision focus.
Sounds good, and this presentation will be distributed to the TAC? Okay, sounds great.
Coley will send it out today.
Sounds great, thank you very much. Next item is Resolution 2242, the FY21 annual listing of transition project obligations with Ian.
Thanks. So this is a thing that we do every year. I actually have a question for VDOT, believe it or not, on this item. I could have probably emailed it on when I thought of it at midnight on Saturday. But the question I have is, I'm not sure why we do this in arrears. We do this like quite a bit after the event. Because this is the FY21 list, not the FY22 list. Does anyone know why we do it so far after the event? I don't. I'm not even sure why we need this document. Apparently we have to have it. It's the annual listing of transportation project obligations. So in there you've got the list of how much was allocated to every project, right, in that fiscal year. But that's FY21.
This is the closeout.
This is the closeout?
This is the closeout.
For FY21? Oh, okay, now I understand.
It's also the federal fiscal year FY21, so that makes it a little less difficult.
When you list up, I was like, oh, well, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, it's the closeout.
Okay, all right.
You're just saying, yes, all this happened.
Okay, well,
Yes.
for part of that year, I wasn't even here, so I hope it all happened. I wasn't here, but you all were here, so as long as you're happy with it, we can approve it. I assume this is the policy committee that will approve this, right? So this is for your information and for you to say, if you see any problems with it, let us know, because the policy committee needs to approve this.
So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'm sorry, to recommend? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes.
Thank you.
We're down
Thanks
to...
Gordon for alerting us to that.
Yes, so we're down to 7F, the FAMPO VDOT Locality Communication Policy with Ian and Becky.
Right, so this is me instigating, actually. If you want somebody to blame for this, this is me. And the reason for this really is that localities and VDOT communicate. We communicate with VDOT and we communicate with localities. But stuff gets lost in translation, and sometimes stuff doesn't come to us at all. So we as FAMPO are responsible for, the TIP, the CLRP, updating the travel demand model, which we're going to have to do now in July. We're also do the work to bring the changes to CMAQ, SCB, and HIP funding, and we have studies that are on the go. And I'm finding in all these cases, and sorry for me to be the Debbie Downer, but I'm finding in all of these cases, finding little bits of information that we don't know about, but you all know, or some of you know, and some of you know some of it some of the time. So it strikes me that we need to just, between us, develop a communications policy. I don't mean a big document, I just mean an agreement as to who's supposed to notify FAMPO. So I'm not going to fix your communication with each other, although I think in some cases that probably also needs a little bit of work. But I'm wanting to know, for example, when the cost estimates change on an item, VDOT says, get the information from the localities. The locality says they don't know, get it from VDOT, and we're kind of stuck in the middle. So what I'd like to get out of this short discussion is just, what is the appropriate thing for us to do? Because we need to know when your cost estimate changes. And I need to know who the right person is that should be telling us. Because somebody in this room, or one of your colleagues, should be telling us when those cost estimates on a project changes, because we need to know. But we can't do this ad hoc anymore. We need to have an agreement. This is the person or the people that are going to tell you at FAMPO. And the same thing, I'll finish in a second and I'll come to you. The same thing when you have revenue sharing projects. We know that it exists. Stephen alerted me to one on Route 3 the other day. We don't know that a locality and VDOT have agreed on a project, right? We don't find out unless you come to us and say, hey, can you please put this in the TIP, or can you please put this in the CLRP? If you don't come to us with a request, we don't know that that's happening. And we're also running studies, right? And we participate in your studies, you participate in our studies. But we need to just have some sort of a system of finding out what new projects are coming and finding out what cost estimates change. If we can get just those two things and find out what the appropriate way is for FAMPO staff to be notified, it'll help us. Because we're getting caught between the two stools. Do you know that expression, or is that a South Africanism?
That's like that.
It's caught in a salad, right?
Together with a salad. Yeah. So we're being caught between the localities and the state entities like DRPG and VDOT, you know, and we don't know, like, what we don't know. And so we carry on working in the background, not knowing that there's something else going on, and then we find out, oh, damn, all of that's now wrong because there's some other thing going on. So can we just tell me what's the best way of us as FAMPO staff finding out what's going on?
Can I just ask a question? The Route 3 project, what was that?
It was that removing the bump out. I don't want to target a particular.
Yeah, I just wanted to know the example.
The bump outs are there's an agreement, a revenue sharing agreement between VDOT, I think it's possible to remove the bump outs and to create another lane. And so we were talking in the East-West study about using the turning lane as a BRT lane, but there's already this thing going on that I'm not completely aware of. Our consultant eventually said to me, no, we know about this. And I'm like, well, great, but I don't know about it. So, but I don't want to pick on anybody, so I don't want to focus on a particular project, because it's only one example.
Yeah, I know the project. It's not a new project, though. It's like been around for like 4 or 5 years, yeah.
I know, that's even worse. I should somehow know, right? But it's not in any of our documents. It's not in the CLRP. It's not in any of our CMAC or SCTV lists. So it exists, there is such a project, but I just, but that's not what led to this. What led to this is...
You have a lot of issues going on over there.
A lot of...
So there's a couple of ways you could solve your issues. One, you could go by who administers the project. Or two, you could take the list that comes out at right now this time of year, which is our 6-year improvement plan, and review the 6-year improvement plan. The 6-year improvement plan will have all projects in it.
Including revenue sharing projects?
Including revenue sharing projects.
Okay.
So I can send you a copy of that over.
So
I'll send you a link and a copy of it, and that'll give you a list of all the projects in this area.
That's a good starting point, but that's not going to tell me when the cost estimates change.
So the cost estimates would come from who's the administering the project. So if VDOT is administering the project, it is our responsibility to make sure that we keep you updated on when cost estimates go up. If the locality is administering the project, it would be their responsibility to make sure that you knew that they go. Just like we had that little incident before, it was all the localities needing to make sure that they get gotten with us to get these updates. So that's who needs to make sure. It's who administers the project.
So the bulk of them are going to be VDOT. So I'm going to have to...
There's a lot.
So I call you, I call Susan?
You can call
So this is part of the problem. Part of the problem is, yes, I can call you if I know something. But costs change, and I don't know they've changed. So, okay. Thank you. Localities too. Please, can we, if you're doing something that's not got to do with VDOT, you're administering it yourselves, just please let us know. I'm not pointing at any one person. I've just noticed it's just starting to get a little worse as time goes on, that getting the cost estimates correctly, or knowing that the project's going on, and I hear what you're saying, I mean, if they're in the SIP, I can look at that. But it's just that we are finding that every now and again, stuff has changed and we just don't know. So that was the whole point of this.
So I'll send you the SIP, and then I can send you, I think I can get you the graph. So what happens is, coming here in June, we will have the final, the year approved. And then that SIP, anything things that change, we go into the live version, okay? And I'm seeing, let me see if I can get you the access to that.
Well,
Yeah, that.
Well,
But we'll go.
sending over the document would be great, and then Michelle suggested that you will talk about the best way to.
I see what you have access to out there on the website.
Ian, real quick, when I was working with the Savannah NPO, what we did to solve this problem was at the end of every meeting, every TAC meeting, VDOT would start, we go through project lists, we go through where we're at with the project, funding, money, completion, any changes. Other member agencies do the same thing, so that was helpful. Yeah, well, it was incredibly helpful to NPO staff.
To be an all-day meeting.
Yeah, well, it was about 10 minutes, at the end of the meeting, and NPO staff found it incredibly helpful.
So if all the projects are the same as last month, then you don't need to talk about it. It's only the changes when you've got a new project or the cost estimate on an existing project has changed. That's the only regular information.
If you would like to attend our quarterly books review, we'll be happy to send you a link like that.
We'll talk offline.
Ian, the other category of projects that we want to capture are those done under permits. And that would be 100% locally funded project or a developer-funded project. There's a lot of good work going out there with the development community as I drive around Spotsylvania and Cosner's Corner. So I know when we did the bond projects, they were 100% locally funded. You just did it under a permit like a developer. So it's just a real benefit to the region, to the air quality model, and we do update it for those turning lanes and new traffic signals to be documented. It doesn't have to be a rush, but maybe when you have the ribbon cutting or something, just know to, send us a link to the press release, and that way we can start adding it to the model data that we're now updating for the model.
So that is the final point. The final point is, just the summary of that is, Becky is in our staff responsible for compiling a list for VDOT's modeling department, not you all, the people in Richmond, or I think they're in North Virginia, but anyway, that are going to work on updating the Sandberg travel demand models starting on the 1st of July. So by the 1st of August, I think, we have to get them a list of every new project that's been built since 2015.
Yes, so your permit job since 2015.
So this is a key point here.
Great to get.
If we don't know about your project, it's not going to go in the travel demand model because we won't know to add it, right? So that's.
Give us one with the UPC number, but all those other ones that you put in place since 2016, if you can even just start making a list of them, that would be fantastic.
Please, because Becky's going to reach out to you and say, please tell us what you've got. This is what I know about. What else have you done? Because the travel demand model people are looking to FAMPO to provide the list of, we put another lane on this road, right? We put a new intersection, or whatever the case is, because the travel demand model won't know that you did that unless we put it on the list.
A lot of good work's been done out there. Take advantage of that. And if you have a rough value of it, even just a ballpark, that's value added. That's money, like if you will, we call it non-dues revenue in the association world, that was spent by somebody to build those things, and that'd be just awesome.
Why do we need to know about the money?
Just because I want to know about it.
Okay, so we don't have to turn it over to people.
If he wants to know.
What we need to know is where the projects are.
So I guess, like, if you have a draft list, could you distribute that to the localities, and we can take a look at that and then just fill in maybe missing projects?
We won't have it ready now in June, but in probably July-ish, we could send you the list of everything that we've collated in June.
What I'll know about fall are I'm compiling now with your, the data we've gotten, from VDOT, anything with the UPC code, I'll have going back to 2016, its expenditure history, all right? So we'll be able to find out by the expenditure history when that project was finished. Then through the portal, I'll be able to have the UPC projects go. So I've got a real good handle on anything with a UPC number, and that is being compiled now. We'll send them all to I'll be able to sort by locality and say, here's kind of where I think this job ended because the money stopped, the expenditures were drained down. It's those ones offline that didn't have a UPC, just a low-tech way as your staff remembers. I'm looking at Rodney here, remembering our bond referendum projects. They were finished before 2016. But you're doing such good work out there, and the development community is investing in the infrastructure. That's why I want the dollar amount, because somewhere along the line, we're going to have a press release that says, hey, here's what we spent, through the money that ran through FAMPO's book. Here's how much the development community did as far as these infrastructure improvements and everything they're doing. New traffic signal, turning lanes, that's good from an air conformity standpoint, and just a great bang for the buck, when you signalize an unsignalized intersection and add those turning lanes. Just a real big model air conformity
Just to say, we can share any information we have. I say we don't always have information for how much money a developer spent on a intersection project, let's say.
Yeah, they bond it and so forth. So it's just a nice thing to have that we can really tout the money that's being invested by the development community. It's a good guy thing.
Okay. Was there anything else?
No, just those information. We just need information for those various purposes.
And did you say there was like a deadline in August for the travel demand model?
Yeah,
we need to have the list?
So we have to, I think it's the 1st of August, we have to send them a list of all the projects so that they can hand it to the consultant who's going to be building the new model. So the consultant has been appointed, starts work. They were going to start work, I think, the 1st of July, and I persuaded them to move it back 1 month to give us extra time because they need that list up front so that they can build the model. So we do need, by the end of July, to have all of your projects for VDOT's modeling department to be able to build the new model.
Okay.
Most of this information could be picked up from the planning approving authority and the localities where they have developments, improvements. Usually they submit cost estimate bonds and things like that, and it's easy to really find out.
Things like sidewalk improvements are not going to affect the travel demand model. So for that project, we don't need to know you've put the sidewalk down. For studies, we might offer smart scale applications because then we need to know where it's already built, so we don't try to build it again. But for this project that Becky's on, things like sidewalks, it's any project that'll affect the traffic, because that's what the travel demand model does. It monitors traffic. So it's the traffic-related projects that we need to get on that list.
So I guess will FAMPO kind of send out an email kind of with exactly what you need? Okay.
Becky's going to be doing that, and then she will collate the list, and we can show you the draft, and then you can add to it.
Very good. Next item is the FAMPO committee meeting calendar.
Since we're done with the fiscal year, I just wanted to remind everyone about what's coming in the second half of the year. We don't have any meetings in July, so enjoy the month off from FAMPO. And then we'll see you guys back on August 1st. And then this is sort of the list for the second half of the year down here.
And none of the standard meeting dates have changed. We're still following the same.
Yeah, the only holiday that's a disruption is in September, so the meeting will be 1 week later than normal, but otherwise it'll be the first Monday of the month.
We just put it in your pack again to remind you of those dates.
Okay, very good. Any questions for the FAMPO staff?
BPAC will be meeting in July because they only meet every second month. Okay. Chosen to meet in July.
Okay. Very good. Next item is the election of officers.
So as we do every year at the mid-year break, we elect a new office bearer for our committee. So the policy committee has to do it at their meeting. TAC will be doing that today, and our CTAC and DTAC also will do their elections. And as you can see up there, the officers shall be elected at the June meeting, and they'll assume their duties at the next meeting, which in our case will be the meeting in August because we don't meet in July. And there you can see the rotation that we've had in the past, FY21, FY22. So FY23 is, I guess, Fredericksburg's chance to nominate a chair. Stafford would nominate the vice chair, and Spotsy the second vice chair. As you know, the rural localities do participate and are members of the TAC, but they don't serve as chairs or vice chairs.
Who wants my vote?
I got 50 bucks here, can I?
We nominate Ms. Jackson for the city.
You should really run this election like this.
Okay, so, why don't we just go by each locality? So does the city know who the representative is going to be?
Jackson.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And does Stafford know their rep?
Be myself.
And Spotsylvania will be myself. So I guess, is there a motion to approve kind of those nominations?
So moved.
Second?
Third?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Did you elect them in that order, or did you just elect them at the...
All together.
Great.
And all together.
So congratulations to our new chair, our new vice chair, and our new second vice chair. Ms. Jackson, you'll be chairing the meeting first week of August.
So when I'm late, Alex, it's all yours.
We'll just wait for you.
If all three chairs don't fit, then I guess I have to chair the meeting, so please do this.
And if I may, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
obviously, as a committee, we have appreciated your leadership.
Thank you.
Getting the job done, and I mean that sincerely, Paul. You keep us moving, you know your stuff, you make sure, especially this has been a very hectic smart scale year, but we've actually been able to push through on all these projects and policies and documents. So, as a committee, I just ask that we recognize Paul at this time for his year as chair.
Thank you very much.
We have a nice certificate
Great.
prepared. Thank you for your year of service as the chair. I've certainly enjoyed working with you. When I first heard my predecessor was going to be in the next chair, I was like a little nervous about that, but I've found working with Paul has been actually working well. We've actually got on. We don't always agree, as you know, and we speak our minds, both of us, as you know. But actually it's worked, I think. I feel anyway that this, particularly the last 8 or 9 months, has been going really well.
I agree.
So
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't.
Sign this, Paul.
No, please don't sign it again.
Come back, I was.
I know. I just like a year.
Everybody's name on the back.
I know.
The smiley face. Stay cool, Paul. Have a great summer.
I don't know about staying cool, but.
Yeah, all on Paul, right?
Yeah. All right, so correspondence?
I'm not aware of any specific correspondence for the TAC. Coley, did you receive any email with correspondence for the TAC?
Any staff reports?
Nothing new to report today. I usually cover most of the other things in the agenda, so nothing new to report.
I did have one question, just with the 2020 decennial census results for the urbanized area. Is there any update on when those results will come out?
VDOT sent that email to us with Ivan Rucker's email attached to it, which is a summary, I think, of, I don't even know who anymore, because it gets forwarded and forwarded and forwarded, but it just says in the fall, right? So it doesn't even say this month in the fall, it just says in the fall. So it went from being in the summer to now it's in the fall, so we can't actually give you a date.
And I was just recently at the AMPO conference in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and they just released the Federal Register notice that had just been approved, that this will be the regulations of what will determine the determination factors, but they had no output or no idea what it really meant to be, so it's still up there.
And while we talk about conferences, and before we get to your member reports, at the VTA conference this past week, I attended with GWI Connect, and they received another award again this year, so I think we should congratulate them. I've forgotten what.
With Healthy Generations Agency on Aging. So they actually won the award. They do our travel training program. So I'd love to say it was us, but I didn't do anything.
Okay.
But they won the small transit outstanding program award for their travel training program.
There we go.
So when you see Tamara and Jennifer, congratulate them.
Well, congratulate them. That's all from us, Mr. Chair.
Sounds great. So we're down to member reports. Does anyone have any member reports they would like to share?
Just really quick for the city, in coordination with VDOT, we're doing our public hearing for the Twin Lakes Kensington Shared Use Path. That will be on July 14th. Formal information will be sent out, but I just wanted to let everyone know that that is coming just in case you need excitement. We will be there with VDOT.
Sounds good. Yes.
A couple of notes on Smart Scale. As you know, the FAMPO, was reduced to the 4 that will become final applications. We are working on those, some very actively, because, as you know, because of the regional nature of what we do here, some of the decisions and terminations got pushed further than most of the locality submitted applications. So we're still working on a lot of those. 5GWRC, however, we're not doing much with those because we don't want to work on 5 when there's only going to be 4. And we didn't do anything today to change that. So, but those will be some of the later ones that will probably come back to you as far as the information that you'll need to complete those applications. So,
We have somebody online that has a question.
Okay. Do we know who?
Colin from DPRA.
Okay. Go ahead, Colin.
I apologize if this question has already been addressed in the previous meeting or in another committee, but I was wondering if there's a status update on the rural plan at all?
The Rural Long Range Transportation Plan. Which rural plan are you referring to?
Yeah, the Long Range Rural Transportation Plan.
So we GWRC approved the Rural Long Range Transportation Plan, when was that, a year ago? About a year ago, and we're collecting items to include in a future update to the Rural Long Range Transportation Plan. But it is available on the GWRC website, and it was approved and implemented about a year ago.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. Oh. Okay. Are there any other member reports? Yes.
Sorry?
Next is that meeting, the June 10th, to watch online for the transit, the merit capital rate.
Great. Thank you. I'll make one kind of quick comment, and Rodney might want to add to this, but with the major, basically, Fred Station for Spotsylvania, basically Lee Hill Transfer Center, we're going to have to move that to a different location due to economic development. So, Spotsylvania is working with Fred and VDOT to try to find kind of a different location for that, and we're looking at, I think, at 4 different sites.
Yes.
I'll say when.
Had that discussion.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. I guess I'm not sure if that impacts the east-west study. It's not going to change a completely different part of Spotsylvania, but it'll be in a different physical location.
Yeah, we did not list that as an item that consultant needs to look at it
Okay.
for a study, so it's not a, we're looking at cycle pods to connect to the train station in Spotsylvania and a couple of other things, but not that,
Okay.
there's nothing new on that.
Okay, great.
Paul's house, because he's no longer chair, so.
Yeah. So I actually don't know all the details on the development, but it's apparently something with defense or federal, that would basically cause the Rappahannock Goodwill to move to different location. And the Lee Hill Transfer Station is like in the parking lot of the Rappahannock Goodwill. So they need to find kind of a different place for that station.
Kicking the goodwill out?
No, they.
It wasn't us.
Came to us. They are willing to, wanting to sell the building, so they're gonna change their footprint and operation, and they're just looking to downsize. And there's a government contractor that may be wanting to purchase it, and as they did an assessment of the site and the building, they were concerned with the transfer station being in that location. So they were asking, met with the county to see if we would be willing to relocate that, as they move forward.
You're kicking the goodwill out.
We are not. They came to us saying that's what they wanted to do.
Hopefully the federal government's paying.
And they're planning to relocate somewhere else in the county. They're looking at some options. Yes.
Yeah, what they do is very sensitive, so I guess having that transit station there would conflict with,
Yeah, security risk.
Security risk.
yeah, it's a security risk if they left.
Okay. What was the old, what was that furniture store?
Galahans, I think.
Gallahan.
That's what they claim,
That's what they.
yeah.
That's what they claim.
It's the old Gallahan store. All right, be nice.
Yeah, so any other member reports?
We're good.
Okay, you're good? Okay, great. All right, so,
I wanted to come to King George, but you don't gotta worry about no buses. You won't have that problem. No buses running.
yeah, so, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you all. Have a good summer.